So I'm Amy Yankin. I'm the director of the Documentary Photography Project at the Open Society Institute. And on behalf of OSI and Columbia University, I'm happy to welcome you here to this Photography as Advocacy Forum. The Documentary Photography Project, and specifically these forums, looks at the role that documentary photography plays in advocacy and supports photographers employing non-traditional distribution strategies to targeted audiences to bring about change related to social justice and human rights issues. I'm very pleased that Nina Berman's here tonight. Her project, Purple Hearts, is one that the Open Society Institute, our foundation, has supported both through our Moving Walls exhibition, an exhibition that's in our offices down on 59th Street, and through a grant she received to tour her exhibition around the United States. I'm going to introduce our moderator, but before I do that, I want to mention that we have another forum coming up on April 5th at our offices here in New York, at the Open Society Institute offices, and you can find that by going soros.org or on any of their materials that are outside. And that panel is going to feature the photographer Donna de Cesare, who worked with UNICEF to depict portraits of women and children who are stigmatized in Latin America, either because of war, or prostitution, or abuse. So without further ado, I want to introduce Julie Winokur, our moderator. Julie is a journalist and a co-founder of Talking Eyes Media. Her stories have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times Magazine, Salon, Publishers Weekly, and many other publications. She is the writer and project director for Aging in America, The Years Ahead, a multimedia look at the impact of aging on society. This series has won top awards from the National Press Club, the American Society on Aging, and the National Press Photographers Association. Her work has been supported by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Open Society Institute, and the California Endowment. Thank you.
I can stay here, right?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you all for coming this evening. It's very exciting to be part of this series, and I know as somebody in the media and somebody who's been frustrated over the last decade in the direction the media has taken, that it's critical that we, as content makers, look at ways we can create truthful media and meaningful media and media that's useful. And I know Nina has dedicated her career to creating such media, so it's very exciting to be here sharing the forum with Nina. I will give you a little background. Nina's a freelance photographer, and she's been at it for, what, about 2 decades?
Just about.
Yeah, who's counting? Purple Hearts is a body of work that Nina's done on wounded veterans who have returned from the Iraq War. And it's resulted in a book. I just saw a copy up here if anybody wants to take a look afterwards. I'll just, as a brief overview, the project has been shown in museums, galleries, universities, town halls, and high schools. And it's been embraced by all sectors of the political spectrum, which is quite a feat. It's been featured in dozens of media outlets, including CBS, ABC, CNN, PBS, Newsweek, Time, Mother Jones, the LA Times, and the Chicago Sun-Times. It's also resulted in this wonderful book. It's a multimedia piece that you can watch online and which we're going to view momentarily. And Nina has done a tremendous job in getting it out in front of the public and using it as a forum, as a catalyst for discussion around the Iraq War and the toll it's taken on our soldiers. I would like to briefly introduce Todd Ensign as well, who I'm meeting for the first time tonight, but what a treat, because Todd has quite a very impressive background and a long-standing commitment to soldiers' rights. I have to confess, I am in awe of this man because there is a Wikipedia entry on him. And you know you've arrived when Wikipedia wants you. Todd is a lawyer who handles American veterans' rights. He's also the director and co-founder of Citizen Soldier, which he co-founded back in 1969 to give you a sense of the long-term commitment that he's made to protect and guarding the rights of American veterans. His organization is based in New York City. They currently have 7,500 members, which is quite impressive. And Todd will tell you about the organization once we get started, giving you details, and he's much more qualified than I to kind of give you a sense of some of the accomplishments that they've made towards protecting the rights of soldiers who have returned, or as occurred more recently with this war, who have refused to return to Iraq on the grounds that this is an illegal war. So I'd love to hear more about that. He's also published 2 books, Military Today, The Challenge of Militarism, and Military Life, The Insider's Guide. He's contributed chapters to numerous other books, and he's widely published. I think what we should do is first watch Nina's piece, and then I'd love to get into some questions with the panelists so we can really get to the meat.
So I'm just going to set it up so if you want to. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you to the Open Society Institute, to Columbia. I started this project in 2003, a few months after the war began. I began to photograph these soldiers out of frustration, really, with what I was seeing in the mainstream press, which was no images at all of wounded soldiers or dead soldiers and Marines, excuse me. And I felt on a very personal level that I needed to make the war real to myself, because I am not from a military family. I did not know anyone other than journalists who were in Iraq. And I felt, as a citizen of this country and someone who in some ways was complicit in this war by being a citizen, that I needed to make it real when the headlines were the kind of, rescue of Jessica Lynch, shock and awe, all of these slogans. So if you can think back to that time, what was really going on. And so I felt, well, maybe I can find some of these guys coming back. And what I did was go on Google, and I plugged in words like arm, leg, brain damage, amputee, wounded, basically how I imagined a soldier looks when he's wounded. And found little newspaper stories, little small towns, and then I would do the painstaking journalistic research of trying to locate this person. And so this resulted in a book, and the book came about largely because the magazine industry, which is where I had worked for many years, was not interested in the story. And that infuriated me and also kind of taught me a great lesson in life, which was just because it's published in a magazine doesn't mean the story's over. And so the book helped me to continue this project, and OSI helped me to move it beyond book format. So when I met these soldiers, I interviewed them first before I photographed them. I recorded their interviews. I made a little movie, not knowing what I was going to do with this little movie. But this movie became for me hugely important because I realized the first time I showed it, which was to high school students, that high school students were my natural audience. And so I have shown this movie to dozens of high schools around the country. And so it's 6 soldiers from the book. It's 10 minutes long. And I guess we can look at it now.
Everyone knows, the Vietnam vet, there was a lot of post-traumatic stress. About 15% was the figure they finally arrived at in the 80s of Vietnam combat area vets were PTSD to one degree or another. But you think you're mostly social work students in here, right? So you understand that is not, no phrase like that can capture all the things that it means. And the fact is that post-traumatic stress in many cases is manageable, but it's not really curable. And many VA ratings for post-traumatic stress are rated, actually I've seen these forms many times, permanent and total. And as you saw with one of the folks that Nina had on there, it said, they didn't use the word total, but they used
chronic and severe.
Chronic and severe, exactly. And so you're going to have, you're creating a whole generation of soldiers who are coming home who are never going to, quote, get better. They may be medicated. You may be able to maintain a lot of them. And as you know what's going to happen with a lot of the others, they're going to turn to alcohol, drug abuse, family abuse. They're going to end up in prison. They're going to end up driving their cars 120 miles an hour down a highway into a tree.